and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Nanaimo for Monday, October 29th, 2012, here at the Shaw Auditorium. And we'll start off, Ms. King, if you could, is there any late items, please?
Thank you, Worship. We're adding a delegation from Mr. Lloyd Sherry to item 5B, which is a presentation regarding Colliery Dams. We're replacing pages 58 to 59 of item 8H, and we're adding a delegation from Mr. Robert Fuller to item 11D regarding the bylaw for the 10-year heritage tax exemption for the train station. That's it, Your Worship.
Thank you. Could we ask for an adoption of the agenda as amended? Councillor McKay.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. And Councillor, thank you very much. All those in favour? Opposed? And the adoption of the minutes is circulated. Councillor McKay.
So moved, Your Worship.
Councillor Beswick. All those in favour? Motion passes. We'll move into presentations. And the very first presentation I have is two individuals who did themselves proud in the city as well. First of all, Mr. James Scanlon, who won gold in the 50-metre backstroke at the Canadian Masters Swim Finals in Kelowna, and Harinder Batu, the gold medal winner in the Canadian National Lawn Bowling Championship mixed pairs held in Peterborough, Ontario. So if the two individuals are here and would like to come forward, and
Let's see the medal.
you have to wait.
Just asking.
So, congratulations, and Bill, can I get you? I'll just take one here. Start off for Jim. I'll take the medal too, and sorry about that. So we'll start off, and James, with congratulations, and we've seen you here before, winning many of these, and congratulations, and it's great you continued participation in swimming. So on behalf of the City Council and the City of Nanaimo, I'd like to present you with this certificate here. There we go. Thank you. And turned over, it's even engraved with your name on it.
Ah, thank you.
When money's no object. Okay, sorry. Let's try those two hands, make it safer.
Another handshake.
Congratulations again. Thank you. Now we're going to get a picture. Come on this way around, and we'll get the gang here to right here, right here. Okay. Oh, one more. Oh, you twitched here. Are you ready? Okay. Thank you very much. Well done. Thanks again. And thanks. So now we have another. Sorry, the hands here aren't great. So there's your certificate. 2012 Mixed Pairs Lawn Bowling. I'll present that to you on behalf of the City Council. Congratulations. And we also have a medallion for you as well. And let me just. Great. I'm not sure if we got it the right way around, but I'll let you check on that too. So, gentlemen, congratulations and thank you very much. I just want to say, yeah, you want to face the crowd? Have some more photo opportunity.
Okay, I'll get on the other side.
Well, yes, sure. What a great opportunity. One more. Okay, one more. Yeah, you can. That's why I made one. Yeah. Okay. Sure. If you'd like to say a few words, please go ahead.
Yes, the national. I don't know which way to face. The Nationals were in Kelowna for the very first time. Nanaimo hosted the Canadian Masters National Swim Championships for the first time in 2010. And maybe next year I can convince the wife that we should go to Ottawa because Nepean is hosting the Nationals next year. I've done them there once before. Harendra Bartu and myself, we are both members of the same lawn bowling club here in Nanaimo at Bevan Park, and it's the first time that Bevan Park has had a national winner in lawn bowling, and so we compliment Harendra.
You're happy with that? Okay. Thanks again, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, and the next presentation under 5B will be Ms. Susan Cliff, Director of Engineering and Public Works, and Mr. Bill Sims, Manager of Water Resources, to provide a presentation regarding the Colliery Dams. Welcome.
Your Worship, members of Council, I'm here this evening to present to you the decision made by Council at its meeting of October 22nd and making that decision public, and to review the issues that Council and staff have been going through in order to reduce a public safety issue that we have now discovered. The agenda for tonight is to first talk about the history of the Colliery Dams, to talk about a little bit about dam safety and the studies that were undertaken by the City of Nanaimo, Council's resolution of October the 22nd, some of the emergency planning steps that we've been taking as an interim measure, where we're going next, and then about Chase River renaturalization. So where are these dams? They are located in the Colliery Dams Park, which is bounded by 6th and 7th, accessed at Waikisai and 6th, and you can see the parkway there, and you can see Nanaimo Lakes Road to the north. There are a number of dams in this vicinity. This project is referring to the Lower Colliery Dam and the Middle Colliery Dam. A little bit of history. These dams were constructed in 1910 to 1911, so they are over 100 years old. They were constructed by the Western Fuel Corporation for the sole purpose of washing coal on the waterfront. So they've had a long service life, and they have since then served the community as recreational structures. What do we mean by that? Well, folks have had a great time swimming here and fishing here, as well as walking, dog walking, hiking, biking through this park. The City of Nanaimo took over ownership of these dams in 1975 at the amalgamation with the Harewood Improvement District, and these were, before that time, used as recreational structures. Since the mining company stopped using them for their purposes. So here's a cross-section or a slice through a dam. This one is the middle dam. The vertical stripe at 12 meters is a concrete core, which is approximately 2 feet in width. It's supported by original rock fill under the water line there on the left. It's not particularly well placed. It's old fill of an undetermined nature and not compacted. In 1978, the Dam Safety Branch asked the City of Nanaimo to place better fill on the other side, on the land side, and that happened, and that's the compact sand and gravel that you can see in purple on the diagram. Here's a picture of the spillway of that same dam. This spillway serves as a relief valve when there is more water than the dam can handle. It comes over the spillway. This spillway is often quite full up into capacity. Here's another slice through the other dam, the lower dam, which is much larger at 14.5 meters high. Its concrete core is 4 feet wide. It has the original rock fill on both sides of the concrete, again, uncompacted, unconsolidated, and unknown material. There you can see the cinder slag added on top to create a rail line for industrial purposes. And in the late 70s, we added the compact sand and gravel to deal with some issues that we had with seepage at that time. There's no reinforcing steel in that concrete core, and it is some of the first concrete poured in Nanaimo. It is of questionable quality, actually it's of poor quality. You can see the horizontal horizontal lines in that photograph represent where the different pores joined, and there's a loss of material at that point, at those points in the slab. More pictures of the dam in winter and summer. So what have we been doing since we've owned these dams? How do we look after them? We work very closely with the provincial dam safety branch, and with their help, we do weekly inspections, monitor for changes in the seepage. What the seepage will tell us is if it changes in color or quantity, then there is a problem in the interior. So it's a proxy for condition. Just so that you're clear, we do believe that in its current state, the dam is still operating. The issues here are not with what would happen under a normal state, it's with when it's stressed. So during heavy rainfall warnings, we closely monitor the dam, especially checking for overtopping, and we do that on-site with staff. We maintain and remove debris, and we have annual inspections by an independent engineer. The Dam Safety Branch does periodic reviews, and as a result of those reviews, they order us to do various studies, of which we will be talking about this evening. At the last dam safety review, these were the two comments that they'd made, that we should have a seismic assessment for the two dams, and they felt that the spillways were inadequate for large floods, and they wanted us to look at that more carefully. So what we did was undertook two studies. The first one was the seismic assessment, and the results of that study were that we felt that the engineers writing the study recommended that a further study be conducted to look at the consequences of the failure of the dam. And certainly they felt that it would not take a sizable earthquake event for the dams to fail, and they felt that what we should more clearly understand is what would happen if they failed. So that was why the second study was commissioned, and that was when we modeled our downstream consequences or the impact of failure. And with these two studies, the recommendation of these two engineering firms, as well as the Dam Safety Branch, was to reduce our risk. They felt that we definitely had too high a risk in place here with these two structures. So what they said, these structures are at the end of their service life. They are over 100 years old. They were built to service a function that no longer exists. They're not able to withstand a significant seismic event, and the spillways are too small to pass extreme floods. So the recommendation from the Dam Safety Branch, given that they pose an unacceptable risk to the public, was immediate action, and this is where Council made a decision to reduce risk. So I'm going to hand this now over to Bill Sims, the Manager of Water Resources, to talk about the next part of the decision that was made.
Thank you, Ms. Clift. Your Worship, Council. So the city follows an emergency management model that you see in front of you. And the top line is the risk assessment. So we've done an assessment of the risk of the dams. And we go around to the circle following the arrows. But one of the keys in any emergency management plan is any advanced mitigation. If we can reduce risk, then that then reduces the stress on the other items in the cycle of response and recovery. So in mitigating the risk, and generally in the dam safety world, there are three basic options that you see in front of you. The first two, rehabilitation and/or rebuilding with new dams. Thank you. The first two options are simply not feasible because of the uncertain geological conditions underneath the existing dams, as well as the fact that we don't get the risk low enough to alleviate the danger to public safety. So that left us with the option of removal. Removing the dams removes the risk of dam failure. And it's also an option, or it's an option that, or an opportunity, I should say, that will allow us to renaturalize the Chase River to its original stream course. So dam removal follows the prudent asset management approach. As Susan mentioned, these structures are at the end of their useful life. They're no longer fulfilling the needs that they were originally constructed for, and they do not have the capacity to withstand major seismic or weather events. So this is just a brief summary of the council resolution that you passed last week, and that is using the language of the dam safety regulations to reduce the risk, remove the dams as soon as reasonably practicable. In the interim, between now and the time that we can have the dams removed, it's also prudent to alert the community of what to do in case of an emergency. In the unlikely event that there's an earthquake or a severe weather event, the community should be prepared. And so we've taken the steps of preparing a drop or a notification to the community that will be going out to them after this evening's meeting to advise them of evacuation plans and the procedures to follow, as well as marshalling centers. Let's just cover that. So that's all going out. This has been publicized to the website. It'll be going out to social media. The public, especially in the evacuation areas, are invited to attend 2 open houses on November the 5th and November the 8th, where they can ask further questions, understand the rationale behind the project, understand the rationale behind emergency preparedness. This is just a sample of the evacuation map that is going out to residents tomorrow morning. And it shows essentially south of the Chase River for residents to evacuate to the south to the Parkway, for residents north of the Chase River to evacuate to the north. Again, this is a precautionary approach if something untoward happens between now and the time of removal. As mentioned, we'll be going door to door tomorrow morning, delivering notices to the public, informing them of this risk, which is a prudent thing to do. They need to know. We're now in possession of this information. We need to stress to the public that the dams are stable in their current state, and this is not a cause for alarm or not a cause for deep concern, and that we're getting on with moving ahead with removing the dams. As mentioned, November the 5th and the 8th are scheduled for the open houses. The first one at...
Sorry, Mr. Sims, could you just maybe elaborate on where and at what time on November 5 and November 8, and where will these open houses be held?
That's a perfect question. Thank you, Your Worship. The first on November 5th is at the Nanaimo Aquatic Centre, and the second one at November 8th is at the Harewood Activity Centre.
And do you know the rough starting time?
I'm sorry?
The starting time when they'll be started in the evening?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next step is, once we inform the public and have those open houses, we'll be getting on with the project of actually engaging a consultant and developing a plan for renaturalizing the river and removing the dams. So we kind of anticipated that one of the very first questions that comes up is, well, what happens after the dams are removed? And the picture you see in front of you is the Chase River as it exists in its natural state. This is downstream of the dams. And we fully expect that the Chase River, in the location of the lakes and the dams, will look like this again. This is the current situation. This is looking at the lower Colliery Dam. So the body of water you see, or the dark blue swatch, is the lake, a cross-section of the lake, if you will, with the forested lakesides. After a period of years, the lake is gone, but the lower the bed of the lake now is a forest, and the channel becomes a river through the forest. Colliery Park, as council, the community, and staff are all certainly well aware, and is one of the treasures of Nanaimo. It's a natural area, it's beautiful, it's well used, it's well loved. One of the primary uses, of course, is the trails, and at this point we envision that use remains. There may be opportunities to augment the trails as part of this project as well. With the dams gone, we still need a way to cross the Chase River. The lower dam features the Trans-Canada Trail, and it's quite a community route, very heavily used. That may be an option, one of the shot on the upper right. One of the other things that we're looking at is the potential to reestablish salmon habitat along the Chase River. This is a good news story. If the dams currently act as a barrier to salmon to migrate upstream, removing the dams allows the potential, anyhow, of expanding that habitat further upstream. On the questions, this is a web link. So nanaimo.ca, go/dams. We'll take members of the public to all of the information we have. There's a very in-depth, detailed question and answers. Some studies, copies of the actual studies. There's links to the emergency preparedness and some other information there. So Susan, I'd be pleased to take questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And to you and to Ms. Clift, that was a great presentation. But before you sit down, Mr. Sims, we have some questions for you. So, Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Sims, very much. I'm interested in the kind of handout that is going to be dropped off tomorrow. Do you have an example of that for us?
Your Worship, thank you. I do have a single sample that I'll pass around to Council. So it consists of a note that is an important public safety notice to the public, alerting them of the potential hazard that exists. And attached to that is a map showing where the dams are, along with the evacuation routes. So I'll pass that right along to Council.
Does it show the inundation plain as well?
It shows what we termed the evacuation area. So it shows which area, if you're in this area, then it's a potential inundation zone. Mm-hmm. It's very conservative, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't selling ourselves short, nor the public as well.
Okay. Then, follow up, if I may. After mature regeneration, as you call it, as far as recreational possibilities are concerned, we will have lost swimming, we will have lost fishing to some extent. Is that the limit of what we'll be losing in that particular field?
At this point, it's very early to say. It seems to me that, as I said, we would like to keep the trails intact and perhaps expand it. And as the project develops and as the plans for renaturalization occur, it's hard to say what other recreational amenities might be there. We've even heard a zip line suggested.
Thank you. Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the great presentation. This probably was, for most of us, one of the most difficult decisions this council has had to make because of the beauty of the area. But I have every confidence in our parks manager and staff that the renaturalization of this area is going to be quite magnificent. And I'm wondering if Richard Harding would like to comment a bit. We've had some discussions about the possibility of there still being some fishing ponds, and would you like, maybe through you, Your Worship?
Mr. Harding, go ahead.
Am I on?
You're on.
Right, I think Mr. Sims outlined the details of the opportunities, particularly with the enhancement, the possibility of salmon enhancement. One of the examples that I would suggest people may go look, although a different size, is the successful side channel that was built a few years ago at Bowen Park. That's really the kind of scale that we're looking at, although the creek bed will be larger than that side channel. It's that idea where you could recreate and put in this sense, we're bringing everything back to a naturalization. In the side channel, we actually built a man-made channel through the park for salmonoid enhancement. This would bring it back to its natural state. But that would give people an example of how you can create something and bring it back to a natural state in that area. In regards to park use, we think from what we've seen and generally what the park is now is what the park is what the citizens want to see it for walking, running, dog use, a variety of natural appreciation. The detail zone in the sense of what kind of ponds we can create as we remove the dams, that'll be part of the next step and how we actually now go towards designing it and seeing what we can achieve.
Thank you. Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Sims, I wonder if you can help us with, and I didn't see it in your presentation, there were 3 options available to Council, 2 of which we've not, in this presentation, seen a price tag on. Can you elaborate a little bit on what the comparisons were?
It's a really difficult thing to establish a price on this work. Part of that is because of the unknown information. We had some opinions that it would be in the tens of millions, in the low tens, like the $20 to $30 million range to remove and replace the dams or to rehabilitate them, let alone the chance that the risk is still there, the downstream consequences are still there.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further questions. Thank you very much. I think really what we have to recognize is that Council has to make a decision based on what we perceive as public safety as well. So I think that the decision that has been made by Council was the right one, and I think that as we move along and come up with some plans to beautify the area following the removal of the dam, if that's the way it progresses, and I think it will be, I think we're all going to benefit from it. Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, just through the staff, what's the catch basin for those upper dams? What's the watershed for the number 1 reservoir, the middle and the lower colliery dams? What's the watershed?
So, thank you, Your Worship. The area, the catchment area, is about 20 square kilometers. So it's about 25% of the area of the city, roughly. Does that help?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further questions. Thank you very much. And we'll move into delegations now. And the first delegation we have is Mr. Lloyd Sherry. Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm standing here as if I'm an old salmon, because the salmon goes out and comes back every 4 years. And it seems that this issue has come up every 4 years on my tenure as sitting in your positions, okay? I have grave concern of what's being proposed here. I've only grew up on that area. I was, if anybody remember when 1938 was, in 44, I was using my teeth to get barberry bark off the trees in that property, and that was under the Canadian Collieries jurisdiction, where they not only washed coal, they supplied water to what we used to call the South 5 Acres, which any property which was south of 7th Street and that. So I think I've been there a day or two. The question that I have is, Mr. Kipp answered the question about the catchment area. So you're given so many kilometers. But what I want to know, when you go for catchment area, do you call Wolf Mountain and Mount Benson the catch area because you're going to have the rainfall run down the hill, or the snow that's packed there melt and run down the hill? Now, on Wolf Mountain side, it falls off also into the Nanaimo River side. So it's not all come there. And also on Mount Benson, it goes into Westwood Lake and in those tributaries north of that. So it's not all coming into this area. Now, you've been painted a pretty picture. These are my words. You've heard them before. Is that we're going to do away with the middle dam and the lower dam. When was the last time on record that the lower dam was drained for maintenance?
Maybe we could ask staff.
Well, I don't think they have that record, Mr. Chairman. It's unfortunately, and the two engineers, they're doing their homework, they're doing their job. But to me, the total homework wasn't completely done, and it's not only them, it's from people prior to them, okay? Because, you see, they used to drain the lower dam and clean the screens that's on those. If you go up there, if you people have been up there, you got a center concrete pillar in the middle of the dam. At the bottom there's screens, which used to filter the water and so that it didn't let the stuff go through. They had two, I guess maybe 10-inch wood stave pipes that came out the other side of the dam, okay, which fed both the assembly dock and South 5 Acres. And they also had a valve there that when they wanted to drain it, they turned it on and it went into that ravine at the lower part, so it didn't interfere with the containment, okay? You people don't have any idea of the terrain that's going to be left there once you take that dam portion away. The question that I have on there, what part of that wall, which is parallel to Wakasaya Avenue, that you're going to take out in order for this natural stream to come back in? What part of this middle dam are you going to take out so that you get rid of all that backlog of water that's going to flow down to be another part of your creek? Then where's the water that's going to be feeding this creek coming from? Is it from the upper dam? Or, lo and behold, that's what's happened in the past. You've had water coming in from South Forks Dam into a concrete dam, okay? When you had too much water, it went over to spillway, and where did it go? It went into the Chase River. So should you, when you're doing your calculations, should you be dealing with that water that's coming from the South Forks Dam that is introduced to the Chase River between the upper dam and the middle dam? Because if you go up there today, the middle dam, you might have 6 inches of water coming over that spillway, if you're lucky. Okay, that's the water that's feeding. On the concrete dam, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, I don't believe today that there's water going over the spillway, because the amount of water that's coming out of that pressure line feeding from South Forks Dam has been reduced. Because you're going to be building a new containment or tank on the other side of where this water is. They're currently putting some nice big pipes in there, and where is the excess water going to go once it's in that tank and the tank's full? Is this what we're going to use to keep that Chase River full of water, so that you're going to have water there all year round? So you're dealing with water supplementing the catchment area with water from outside there. And I have difficulty with that. because you look after your catchment area and there. The other thing is when you take out these areas and you want to go down into the Millstone or the Chase River from what we used to call the bottom of the falls, okay? Boy, it used to be great fishing in there for salmon and steelhead fishing because they couldn't get any farther up. You got your fair share. Then you start going down, and this, you know, there is a concern, but not a grave concern in my estimation, of the property from the bottom of the falls down to the Bold Night where the Chase River comes out, okay? Because if you had a spill, as soon as it gets past that fill, it's going to have to make a turn because you got a rock bluff there. Then you come down and you got an opening where those homes are going to be hit first. Then it's going to go under Howard Avenue. So are we going to say, oh, we got to put another bridge or two under Howard Avenue to allow this water to go through? And then once it gets on the other side of Howard Avenue, the old Sunnybrook Farm is a flat area in there, and then you're into the Barsby, so you got quite a wide area to the deal. I mean, it's not that you're going to have mountains of bloody water coming down there. And those are my concern, is that, yeah, I fought like heck while I was in your position to, okay, let's deal with it. But the other thing is, right now on the walkway above the dam, on the lower dam, okay, if you're going to cut in that section there, are you going to make the people go down a trail and then back up? Or are you going to put a bridge in there to have continuity across there? Have those things been looked at? And it's the thing up there where what we used to call the cove, which is when you look at the lower dam, on the left-hand side, you'll see there's a little beach in there swimming, okay? You look down now. When you drain the water out there, it's not flat. And the whole thing is, on the middle dam's the same way. That bank on the Harewood Road side, you call it the Nanaimo Lakes Road, but it's the Harewood Road side, is a steep bank going down there too. How are you going to address that? So, as I say, I'm sorry I'm over my 10 minutes, but as I say, those are safety concerns that you haven't even dealt with. And the other thing is I would sure like to see the record that the last time on the lower dam, you'll see there's a little concrete square block out there, and you'll see there's concrete been laid over top of there. Well, you know what? There used to be 2 valves down there that controlled the valves on the other side to allow the water to go out. Okay? Now, why did we concrete them up? So those are my concerns as it relates to the dam. But if you want to go to the dam property, okay, start at the corner of Wakasai Avenue and Harewood Road and that. And there's a little triangle in there, okay? There used to be a big septic tank, fields and that used to filter the sewage that came from the Army Camp Hospital, then it was the Union Hospital, and there's a pipe that filters down into this little area here. People in that neighborhood, they've gone in and broke up a bit of this concrete. There's still a cube there that's got a piece of, I'd say, 1-inch plywood on. People in the neighborhood have had to go over and rescue dogs that they've heard. So if you want to be safety, let's include that in here.
Okay, sir, we've got a question for you. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, former Councillor Sherry. I really appreciate your remarks, and I think you have made some poignant points that I would like to have Mr. Sims' opinion on, if he is willing to do so shortly. I just want to remind you again of the safety aspect as I think all of us see it. And, you know, I wasn't going to, but I'll remind you that as a 13-year-old boy in the Netherlands during the big storm of 1953, I sat on a roof for a night and part of a day watching the dead cows and the pigs float by, and I shall never ever forget that. Safety first before anything else. That said, I would like Mr. Sims's opinion, if I may, please.
Mr. Sims, do you have a comment? We've got another question. You want, if you'd like to make a statement, go ahead.
Your Worship, the normal process would be that Council would receive the delegation, then we can respond to queries.
Okay. Councillor Kipp.
Motion to receive the delegation. I have a question on that.
Okay.
No more questions to Councillor Sherry.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question to staff, if we can.
Yeah.
The staff going to respond to that?
Your Worship, we're happy to respond. I'm not sure what question that Councillor Padgett wishes us to respond to.
Former Councillor Sherry made some assertions, and I need to make sure that they fit in with the thoughts that we've had from both Ms. Clift and Mr. Sims. Please.
I got the mic. Thank you.
Sorry, Ms. Kenny, were you going to make a comment?
Well, yes, Mr. Sherry made some comments. Some of them are in disagreement with the statements we made. That's a fact. We don't have anything more to say to that.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Could staff research for me if there are in fact pipes and valves, and if they could be pigged out to cause a short relief right now in this bad time of the season? Probably not going to be able to do anything until October when it's dry. And is there an ability for staff to review? Because if we can pig out some valves in there, we can actually have better control over that dam now. And if those are there, it should be easier to do. So if somebody could look into that for me, I'd be really appreciative.
Answer that now. Go ahead.
Your Worship, the pipes, I believe Mr. Sherry alluded to it, that they have now been filled with concrete. So there is no real opportunity to reuse those pipes for lowering the lake level. They were filled with concrete in the 1970s because they posed a danger, because they were made of wood, they posed a danger to the structure of the dam by water leaking through or leaking out of the pipes.
Okay. Councillor Petty, were you going again?
No, I'm not done.
Okay, you're on here. I'll take you off.
I'll try.
No, don't. I'm not encouraging you to. I just thought you might have had something you were going to say. Please don't look at this as an encouragement. But go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll just ask a specific question then, if I may. Former Councillor Sherry made reference to the covered water reservoir that is under construction, and that there was a problem with excess water from somewhere, and where would that go? Could you explain that to me?
You're on.
Thank you. Your Worship, the water that's in the existing number 1 reservoir, as Councillor Sherry pointed out, does come from the South Fork of the Nanaimo River. That's our drinking water. That reservoir will be decommissioned. However, the excess water that sometimes spills over that dam, we control the level. We control it by level. We can adjust a valve automatically to allow a quantity of water to come into that reservoir. Occasionally, especially this time of year when there's pine needles or leaves, we raise it so that there's a little bit of skimming off the top of that reservoir. So it's a pretty minor in terms of flow, and there's no real contribution to the Chase River from that flow.
Thank you.
So
Okay. Oh, Councillor Johnston, go ahead.
Sorry, Your Worship. We didn't advise the listeners tonight that we are going to be engaging an engineer and consultants in the very near future to oversee this project. And the history that former councillor and good friend Lloyd Sherry has would be very, very good for the new consultant here, and I hope that he has that opportunity to share his thoughts with the consultant once hired.
Okay, Councillor Kipp.
Fisheries flows through the staff. What controls the fishery flows, water flows in the Chase currently?
You're on.
Okay, Your Worship. Currently, it's just natural flows. There is some flow that is contributed to the Chase River from the VIU fish hatchery. So they take some raw water or untreated water from the city, and they run it through their fish hatchery, which then discharges to the Chase. But other than that, there's no storage within the dams that contribute to fisheries flows or anything like that.
So there's a good possibility the creek will go dry in the summer.
The creek will do what it does in a natural condition. Currently, the Chase River above the VIU and even across some of these dams in dry weather does go dry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, staff. I think there was some good information there. We'll move along to item 8A, Community Safety and Development, Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability, expansion of proposed National Marine Conservation Area, NMCA, reserved for the Southern Strait of Georgia. And this is to be introduced by ACE's Chair, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. The committee recommendation is in response to Council's request that we consider the question that Missy put forward about the National Marine Conservation Area, and in addition to it, the committee met, discussed this, and determined to meet with Parks Canada. We had Rob Lawrence, our environmental planner, look into it, and he determined that Parks Canada had not yet confirmed the boundaries and had not yet confirmed all of the work. So we invited 2 representatives from Parks Canada and 1 from the province, and they attended a meeting with us, and we invited some other guests, including the Nanaimo Port Authority. Actually can't recall all the others, but it was a fairly full table. And they made their presentation. And when we considered the reasoning behind Parks Canada's proposal, at this point didn't include the estuary or Gabriola Island. We were satisfied that so far the process had been thorough and reasonable and not yet complete. So for that reason, we recommended at this time that Council take no position regarding the Mid-Island Sustainability Stewardship Initiative's request for the city to support an extension to the proposed National Marine Conservation Area reserved for the Southern Strait of Georgia, and we recommend that the city participate in the National Marine Conservation Area establishment process as managed by Parks Canada.
Okay, Councillor Badger, do you have a question? No?
I have a question to Councillor Brennan, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
What, if any, was the involvement of the Island Trust in this decision?
The Island Trust was not there at the meeting, but the Islands Trust, I believe, has been working with Parks Canada and provincial parks, and it's their concern that if we prolong this, we may lose what we have already. And I think that they have taken a position that we need to work with Parks Canada and try to work with the area that's already designated, which is considerably larger than it began. It began as a smaller piece down in I think around Juan de Fuca and where that starts. And over time, it was expanded. And there's particular and scientific reasons why certain areas were brought into the marine reserve. they're in the report. And when we met with them, when we discussed it with them, when they answered questions of the other guests that had been invited, we were satisfied. We were satisfied that the process that they were going through was a sound one, and we were happy to continue to participate with them in it.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Just a question to Councillor Brennan. Did the staff attend the workshop that was planned October 26th?
Which staff are you talking about, Councillor Kipp?
It's in the report here on the last page, page 18, third paragraph down. It says staff informed of the follow-up workshop planned for October 26th in Sydney. Is staff attending that?
Oh, that would have been Rob Lawrence would have attended, and I'm not sure if he took any other staff members with him.
Okay, and there's no report.
Not so far. We haven't met.
What, a couple days?
Yeah, we'll meet.
But staff attended.
Well, that was the intention. I haven't talked to him, I haven't confirmed it, but that certainly was the intention.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is the committee recommendation 1 and 2 together, and so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into the request for proposal parking, 8B. Staff recommendation the council approve issuing a request for a proposal to select a supplier to provide off-street parking equipment, maintenance, and consumable supplies to provide coin collection for all parking meters.
I'll move the staff.
Move and seconded. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering, through you to staff, when we discussed this, moving this in-house, I was wondering if, in this RFP, I wonder if this RFP was contemplated by Meyer, Norris, Penny, and we had a couple other consultants as well, when they pointed to a cost savings if we went in-house with the parking enforcement.
Yes, Your Worship. When we were presenting the concept of bringing it in-house, we were talking in terms of a parking manager, 3 enforcement officers to be supplemented by one of the existing staff and an admin assistant. For this RFP is to cover all those ancillary services which would not normally be part of the enforcement function but are part of the parking function. So this is snow and ice removal, this is graffiti removal, maintenance of the parkades, daily cleanup, that type of thing, which falls outside of the enforcement function. So the bringing in-house is the enforcement, the ambassadorial role, and downtown security, but not these related ancillary functions.
Thank you.
Just to follow up with that, yes, it was anticipated that these costs would be part of the rolling in of the services, and it was contemplated in all those studies that we did. That was part of the pro forma. What we don't know at the end of the day, and this RFP will actually clarify, is what those costs were, and then we can evaluate how closely we anticipated the costs.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be a question to staff. In our deliberations about the new parking function, to bring it in-house as per the consulting study, that we may be in a break-even proposition. And so you're saying that the consulting study identified bringing it in-house, which would include coin collections. So I'm seeing Mr. Kenny shaking his head no. So when we were making this decision several months ago, and it says here in a press release moving forward, the city also commissioned Myers Norris Penny 2009 to conduct a preliminary cost analysis which suggested that there may be cost saving if the function was conducted by city staff. External to that, then part of those functions were taken by the contractor of the day. And now we're going to bring it in-house with 5 new employees and contract out what is estimated at in excess of $250,000, which assumedly then would add to the break-even point, I suspect, that we were forecasting.
No, Your Worship, I wasn't, I guess, that clear, and I apologize. It was always anticipated that these parts would not be brought in-house, that they would be contracted out, and that was part of the evaluations that were originally done.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Pachi.
Thank you, Worship. To staff, if I may. We had what I thought was a succinct letter from Citizen Boland this morning, which was trying to make a connection between boots on the ground, as he called it, and evolving technology. Could you make some correlation, a connection for me in that point, please?
Your Worship, sure, I can do that. This tender includes supplying equipment because currently in the parkades there are parking spitter machines. Most of those, I believe, are supplied on a lease basis by Robbins, so this package includes supplying new equipment to replace those. Possible that Robbins will bid and may even get it. But with regard to boots on the ground, as part of this program, our recommendation included in integrating the security function with the parking patrol function, and it's our belief that the value of having these 3 patrollers on the ground is going to be there regardless of the technology applied. There are potential areas to improve the service through technology, particularly with handheld devices, so the patrollers have more information at hand with them as they patrol. But some of the other technological improvements that may come in the future, like doing away with individual parking meters and replacing them with meters in the middle of blocks, for example, are quite expensive, and we think that the potential to use those kind of meters will depend on a couple things, one being the level of usage of the parking in the future because the demand isn't there yet, and two, the rates for parking. Those kind of machines are quite expensive, and the low level of our parking rates isn't sufficient to generate the kind of revenue you need for some of that high technology equipment. So we believe that for the foreseeable future and virtually indefinitely that we'll want these 3 patrollers on the ground regardless of the technology that we use.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Kipp.
Thank you. A couple of things. One, I'm not in favor of providing coin collection to an external agency. I can't believe we wouldn't want to collect the money ourselves. I don't trust really well, right? So I'm not a trustworthy person. Does that include? Sorry, Mr. Kenny. Does that include this parking lot below here too?
Yeah, Your Worship, all the coin collection right now is handled by the contractor, Robbins Parking.
And no, but so when this new contract comes in, we'll have the parking here, or because it's not it's VICC.
The city would be doing the patrolling, just like we are now. Well, actually, Robbins is doing it now, so we'd replace the security function and the patrolling function with our own employees, but the cash collection from the machines would continue to be done by a contractor. That's part of this contract that's before you today.
Okay.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff. In the report, the statement is publicly issuing an RFP is recommended as the cost may exceed $250,000 over the term of the contract. Could you please advise what the term of the contract is?
Yes, Your Worship. It's a 5-year contract with an opportunity for renewal.
5-year. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pachi. Are you? Do you have another?
Sorry.
Okay, fine. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I think there's also an ambassadorial position, or hopefully position that the new service may provide, make it a little bit more user-friendly. That was the intent, as I understand it. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillors Kipp and Bestwick opposed, and Councillor McKay and the balance council in favor. Motion passes. And we'll move into the development permit DP 810 at 13 Halliburton Street. Staff recommendation that council issue development permit DP 810 at 13 Halliburton Street to renew development permit DP 637 with the following variances. The required front yard setback is 6 meters. The proposed setback is 3.5 meters, a proposed variance of 3.5 meters. The required side yard setback, north and south property lines, is 3 meters. The proposed side yard setbacks are 1.5 meters, a proposed variance of 1.5 meters. The required rear yard setback is 10.5 meters. The proposed rear yard setback is 6 meters, a proposed variance of 4.5 meters. And finally, the required on-site parking is 3 parking spaces. No on-site parking is provided, and a proposed variance of the 3 parking spaces.
Move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation. Second. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And the item D, development variance permit DVP 201 at 845 Howard Avenue. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to...
Removing myself on a perceived conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Because of a personal relationship.
Thank you. Okay, it's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 201. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to that matter? Apparently not. So the staff recommendation the council issue development variance permit DVP 201 at 945 Howard Avenue. Move. Second. Oh, Councillor Patchy, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. To staff, were any objections received, any way, shape, or form, after the notification went out?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into DVP 202 at 54. Oh yeah, maybe we should retrieve, if you wouldn't mind, that. Thank you, Mr. Swaby. Ms. Brennan, she's chatting with someone out there that... Okay, well, we'll continue on anyway. Development variance permit DVP 202 at 5477 Lost Lake Road. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 202. Is there anyone in attendance who'd like to speak to matters related to DVP 202? Come down, please, ma'am. We just need your name and address for the record and whether you're for or against it.
Your Worship, council members, my name is Darlene Irvin. I live at 558 Cliffside Road, basically right across from the property which the variance is to be that we're addressing. I respectfully request that you reconsider your recommendation to grant this variance. Firstly, we feel the lot, I represent a few people, and I think there's a lot more that aren't here that agree with me, but that the lot is too small for two developments. We're concerned about parking, where parking would take place. We are a family neighborhood. It's across from a mailbox, and there is a fair amount of parking on the street already. And with no parking allowance for if we put 2 houses there, our concern is the parking. There'd be no room for parking and street parking and safety. Secondly, it's just, I guess we bought in a single-family neighborhood or single-family dwelling, and we're wondering what's going on there, what the plans are. We're hearing that possibly there could be a duplex put in the first part of the development, and then the back part, which there's nothing now but bush, that there could be 2 houses put there. They're probably going to be small. That's 4 homes in what we think should be a 2-home lot at the most. Okay. Only 4 of us got letters about this. I'm also wondering if that's the normal consultation. Some of the people here didn't get letters, but they're certainly going to be affected by this.
Okay, maybe staff could just confirm the area that we would normally circularize information to, immediately adjacent to this property.
Your Worship, it's to the adjacent property owners, so the ones either directly across the street or abutting the subject property.
That's the policy.
Okay, but it certainly affects the whole neighborhood.
It certainly might, but we're talking about notification area.
Notification,
that's what we have.
That's it. Okay. Sure. I'm wondering what our recourse is if I know I could get a petition that would certainly raise opposition to this.
Okay, we have Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. To staff, the same as the previous one. Statutory notification went up. Any respondents to that? Any complaints other than what we received tonight?
Your Worship, if I might interject on a procedural item, normally Council receives the delegation and then we respond to questions.
Okay. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, your question, Councillor
Can I ask my question?
Yes.
One more time.
Yes, Your Worship, not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you.
I'd also, just for Council's benefit, I'd like to clarify a misstatement. The subject properties are zoned R1, which is a single-family zoning. So what would be permitted on the lots are a single-family dwelling, and there is an opportunity for a secondary suite within those single-family dwellings. With regards to parking, the parking is required to be provided on site as with any single-family dwelling.
So the concern that the delegation had, Mr. Tucker, was that there was a perception there might be two houses or two dwellings in the front and a dwelling in the back, and you're suggesting that isn't the case?
The property that is the corner lot at 5477, which is at the intersection of Lost Lake Road and Smoky Crescent, because it's a corner lot, has the opportunity of a duplex dwelling. The other two lots that are being created are single-family dwelling only.
Okay. Councillor Patchy, are you back with us? Okay. I see no further questions. Do we have it moved and seconded on that link? So all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Moving to development variance permit DVP 203 at 461 Albert Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 203. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 461 Albert Street? The staff recommendation that council issue development variance permit DVP 203 at 461 Albert Street.
Move staff's
recommendation. Second. See no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving down into item G, proposed road exchange adjacent to 3852 and 3887 Gulfview Drive. Staff recommendation that council, one, receive the report pertaining to the highway closure and dedication removal, a portion of Gulfview Drive adjacent to 3852 and 3887 Gulfview Drive, bylaw 2012, number 7156. And two, authorize the proposed road exchange to the property owner of 3852 and 3887 Gulfview Drive, Century Group Land Corporation, CGLC, and direct the mayor and corporate officer to execute a conditional land exchange agreement. And three, direct staff to proceed with a public notice of the road closure and the road dedication of a portion of Gulfview Drive. Someone moved. Is there a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? This is 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. The bylaw that follows, and the bylaw is that highway closure and dedication removal, a portion of Gulfview Drive adjacent to 3852 and 3887 Gulfview Drive, bylaw 2012, number 7156, pass first reading. Moved. Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And over leaf, we have two, that highway closure and dedication removal portion of Gulfview Drive adjacent to 3852 to 3887 Gulfview Drive, bylaw 2012, number 7156, pass second reading. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Responses to requests for offers. We're moving into item H, 1621 Dufferin Crescent. Staff recommendation to council: 1, approve the disposition of 1621 Dufferin Crescent to R.W. Bob Wall Limited, and 2, direct staff to establish a notice of disposition as required under section 26 and 94 of the community charter. Moved and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Property maintenance bylaw 1990 number 3704. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to property maintenance for the properties listed below. Staff recommendation to council pursuant to property maintenance bylaw 1990 number 3704, direct the owners of the following properties to remove the materials removals as listed below from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost. The first property is 6278 Invermere Road, broom and vegetation encroaching onto neighboring properties. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 6278 Invermere Road? The second property is 431 4th Street, derelict brown truck, household appliances, household furniture, household garbage, discarded wood, plastic, metal, and miscellaneous debris. Is there anyone in attendance here tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 431 4th Street? Seeing none, someone would like to move the recommendation? Move. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Unresolved building deficiencies, bylaw contravention notices at 560 Pythian Lane. It's requested that council here in wishing to speak with respect to the unresolved building deficiencies at 560 Pythian Lane. Staff recommended to the council by resolution instruct the corporate officer to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting 560 Pythian Lane for illegal construction, alter single residential dwelling to include 2 secondary suites and alter detached garage to include a secondary suite at the Land Title and Survey Authority of the British Columbia under Section 5.7 of the Community Charter. Would you move? And second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Corporate Services, Regional District of Nanaimo Boundary Amendment to Duke Point Sewer Services Bylaw, number 1004.06, 2012. Staff recommendation that Council waive the consent requirements under Section 801.4 of the Local Government Act by consenting to the adoption of the Regional District of Nanaimo Boundary Amendment to Duke Point Sewer Service Bylaw, number 1004.06, 2012, and that the Regional District of Nanaimo be notified accordingly. Moved. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into bylaws with no accompanying report. 11A, that zoning amendment bylaw 2012 number 4500.028 RA 299 to rezone part of 2022 Latimer Road from single dwelling residential R1 to single dwelling residential small lot R2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision be adopted. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. B, that business license amendment bylaw 2012 number 535109 to amend the business license bylaw to increase the maximum fine for summary conviction under the Offense Act from $2,000 to $10,000 past first reading. Moved. Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That business amendment bylaw 2012 number 5351.09 pass second reading. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, that business license amendment bylaw 2012 number 5351.09 pass third reading. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And C, that property tax exemption bylaw 2012 number 7152 to exempt certain lands and buildings from taxation be adopted. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion. Oh, sorry. Councillor Graves had a point.
No, I'm sorry, Your Worship. I was just trying to jump the line.
He was on here first, and then if you wish to speak, Councillor Anderson, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was voting.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. And you were...
I was just trying to get ahead of the game here. I think I'll be in conflict with this on the next thing.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be able to vote on this, but next one I'll be in conflict.
Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And now, which item are you...
Well, the delegation is going to speak about the heritage, and that's the ICF. He was opposed.
You were opposed to it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you record the vote? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I've got about 14 conversations going here, which is not always helpful.
I'm on the ICF board, so they want...
Good point. Thank you.
I was just trying to help you out because you didn't...
Thank you, Jim. No, that's good.
Yeah. I'll correct that too.
Okay. Now, the next is the delegation, and the delegation is Mr. Robert Fuller. Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
Robert Fuller, 3350 Hammond Bay Road. Before I begin, let me state that what I'm going to say should not detract from this property and the work and the funds from countless individuals and organizations that made this facility possible. I realize this is a bit late, quite possibly having passed third reading, but I did not have adequate information to justify any statement. If I am able to continue at this time, I would like to.
Well, it has passed third reading, but please go ahead.
While I was preparing for my presentation to council, I was a bit torn. On one hand, I truly treasure our heritage and believe that our history and the heritage buildings in Nanaimo are worthy of consideration to council and the citizens of Nanaimo to preserve. On the other hand, council, on a regular basis, denies exemption to a percent of the floor space that a bar or lounge area occupies in a building. Take, for example, the curling club. Given that the area in the ENN railway station occupied by the bar restaurant is in the realm of 80+%, it is rather puzzling that staff would recommend a 100% 10-year exemption and council would adopt this. Surely, given that other buildings are not given this preferential treatment, one might ask if the city is not setting itself up for other locations to ask for the same treatment. While researching the subject of heritage tax exemptions, I came across the March 3rd, 2010 minutes of the Nanaimo Community Heritage Commission. In item 6, Mr. Darren Moss of Tectonica Management, in his presentation for the 10-year exemption, explains that the maintenance costs for this project are estimated to be $6 per square foot, while most businesses are only able to pay $3 per square foot, and that by granting the 10-year rather than a 5-year exemption, this business would be allowed to get a foothold. It would seem to me that the business should know about this and really shouldn't go for an exemption over something that most other places do not get. This scenario was then recommended to pass and forwarded to council to accept. Surely in light of this, one would wonder whether staff and council are in the business of getting into the marketplace and placing favoritism of one business over another. It would seem to me that council would seek to add to the tax base rather than diminish it. Because of these two issues, that is, most structures with a bar area lose that percentage of their exemption, and two, the city may be perceived by this action to be favoring one business over another, I would like to urge council not to sign and adopt the Heritage Building Property Tax Exemption Bylaw 2012, number 7153.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I might just make one quick comment if I can. This is a very unusual circumstance. There's no question about it. And the building, you'll recall, had been damaged extensively by fire and was ready to be pulled down. And the community got behind it, and specifically the young professionals of the Nanaimo YPN got behind this thing and raised about $250,000 to have this redone. And I think at that point, the council was left with a dilemma that and without this tax consideration, the business per se was not financially viable and it was going to collapse again. So, but I think, Mr. Kenny, do you want to, can you just recap the circumstances from the city standpoint, I think, of dealing with this issue?
Yes, Your Worship. When the delegation, Mr. Fuller, says that city staff supported this, I guess that's technically correct. Our recommendation was based on the fact that this met council's criteria.
Yes.
But having said that, I also believe that this was an important project for the community. There was very great difficulty in finding a way to pay for the renovations, which are, I think, considered desirable by the majority of the community. And in the end, this business came forward, and it was pretty clear to everybody that if they had to pay the full cost of the renovations, which were very expensive, that the business likely wouldn't be able to proceed. Having said that, I agree it is unusual. But the bottom line really for council is that the investor made decisions to proceed based on the approval of the previous council in principle. And so the work is now done, and I believe it's council's in a position where it's incumbent upon them to fulfill the obligation that was made by the previous council and adopt the bylaw.
Yeah, it was a difficult one for all of us, and certainly for me. And the challenge was this thing had been rebuilt, and a huge amount of time and effort and money went into it. And so there were a lot of volunteers that committed a huge amount of time to it. And I think we all wanted to see the train station stay. And there was no way it was financially viable without having a tenant, and there was no way the tenant could afford to pay prevailing rates without a consideration. And we felt it was important to preserve that rail station. Councillor Paggi.
Thank you, Worship. To staff, if I may. How does this differ from what previous councils did for the Gazzola block and for the Painted Turtle, which both have businesses in it as well?
Sorry?
Thank you. It's the same principle. It was council support that was considered important to allow the renovation of important buildings to proceed.
Do you understand the point? It wasn't actually precedent setting because we have done similar ones before, similar to this, with a 10-year moratorium on taxes. Councillor Brennan.
Well, this wasn't a particularly difficult decision for me because I think we have a policy, we have criteria, we have applied this policy and criteria in the past to preserve buildings that we believe have a heritage value, and that we believe that our heritage here is a real value to citizens. And I think Nanaimo, the citizens of Nanaimo, do value their heritage, and I think that they invest a lot of value in heritage buildings, in the form of heritage buildings. So the Gazzola block is one, I think, that it's a little tiny building downtown, but it has this just downtown, it's a downtown icon, and always has been because it's so unusual. Same with the Painted Turtle, and the amount of business that the Painted Turtle has brought into town, and also the business that is generated out of Mont Petit Choux that's in the Gazzola block, I think is testament to how well this bylaw works. And the train station, there was an enormous amount of support by the community to get that thing built again. And there was concern on the part of the community if that wasn't done. And so I'm convinced that the community would be solidly behind this tax exemption because it preserves the building, and it's not just a ghost building. We used to sit there, it's a lonely little building on Selby Street. Now it's heritage, it's up and running, it's vibrant, it's got people in there, it's landscaped in the front. You couldn't do any better than what's been done there. And I haven't heard, except for this evening, I haven't heard anybody speak against it. So I'm really happy to do it, and I didn't really hesitate. It wasn't that difficult for me.
Actually, at the start, I said that anything I say here should not detract from that building. And the fact that it is beautiful, it's great for the community.
Okay, we got one more question for you. Councillor Kipp.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion to receive the delegation?
Certainly you may. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
What a quick study.
Well, there we go. Did you want to make a comment?
Well, I just wanted to sort of agree with Councillor Brennan on the heritage fact. I wish Civic Arena was still standing, because that was a heritage building, and it got tore down, and everybody had a real attachment to that, and a lot of people were mad about it. And in our downtown, there's one heck of an earthquake risk in these old buildings that we're fixing up, and I hope we're taking that into consideration too when we grant these, because we're going to have to clean up all the stuff that's in the downtown core, and I hope we evaluate the risk when we do give these propositions to the downtown core. And I really wish heritage buildings like the Civic were
Well, that's a very good point, because I would
let stuff go.
Well, I think, though, the point is, though, and we're dealing with a specific property here, which is the train station, and I would suggest that it must meet the current guidelines and for seismic standards, presumably. So,
well, train station
point
with
taken.
no trains, that's the sad part.
Yeah, that's the only technical problem. Councillor Brennan.
Maybe just to follow on that thread, maybe the staff can clarify for me, but when a building is being used for a purpose that it had not previously been used for, does that call for seismic upgrading?
Your Worship, I'll start, and Mr. Seward can fill in the gaps here, but any change of use under the code would trigger an evaluation of the seismic, and that's currently the way that we approach it.
So those buildings downtown that have been refurbished and have received heritage status will have been seismically upgraded during the...
Yes, in fact, one or two of the ones Mr. Kenning talked about, there was a program that council has that included the seismic upgrading as part of the tax release, and it was based on a percentage of the work done and then transferred into a length of tax relief that they achieved for the whole building, but it was part of it.
Good to know.
Yes.
Your Worship, yes, that the Gazzola block was completely upgraded, and that was one of the challenges they had with dealing with that building, is how to deal with it seismic. Of course, the same thing, the train station, the moment the structure is renovated, they look to provide the upgrading. But again, to confirm, buildings do not have to be upgraded seismically if there is no change of use. If the owner chooses to do it on a volunteer basis, yes, they would be required to, but the change of use is the only consideration that directly is applicable from the building code.
Okay, Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Worship. I was going to ask Mr. Fuller a question, and he can nod from the gallery. If this had been a restaurant only, would you have had a concern? Correct. And I think there's two programs in play here that permit tax exemption. One, of course, is the permissive tax exemption we give to charities who occupy space, and under those guidelines, you're absolutely correct that the lounge areas or where alcohol is served, that is not. That's not considered to be exempt. This is the heritage building program, and whether it be a restaurant or a bowling alley or a bar, they would all get the tax exemptions. And I have to say that I would vote on this one again. The Gazzola block and the train station, those are absolutely gorgeous. And the fact that we've given a little bit of a mechanism there to carry on the restoration of the train station, it could have just as easily been bulldozed down. The community got behind it. I think it's a testament to what we can accomplish here in Nanaimo. That's a great building now. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Totally.
Thank you very much for your concern.
And actually, to Mr. Fuller, I just want to remind everyone, too, that he did point out that he thinks that the use that we've got is good, and I respect the views on it.
It's great for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on. That the Heritage Building Property Tax Exemption Bylaw, 321 Selby Street, 2012, number 7153, to replace a 10-year full property tax exemption on a heritage property historically known as the Esquimalt and Nanaimo train station be adopted.
So moved.
Moved. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I think we can retrieve... Okie dokie. So item E, that housing agreement bylaw 2012 number 7157 to permit a rooming house with 12 sleeping units at 427 Milton Street be adopted. Moved. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That sorry, correspondence not related to report to council. If someone would like to move the correspondence. Move. Seconder. Any business arising? Would anyone like to deal with either one of the items? Councillor Brennan.
I would move that council invite Dr. Paul Hasselbeck to attend a meeting at his convenience, a council or a committee of the whole meeting at his convenience to present the new information.
Second that.
Moved and second, and an excellent suggestion. Councillor Anderson, are you speaking on this one? Are you?
Yes, I was just hoping to amend Councillor Brennan's motion that it be at an open meeting of council, not the committee of the whole, so it's broadcast to the public.
Sure.
Okay, that's fair. Good point. We'll show that. Actually, I think we could just make it as a single motion with that proviso that it be held at a televised session. Ms. King, you're going to beat me up for this, aren't you?
Your Worship, we could treat that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, fair enough. So, could we have a vote on that thing? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into any questions on the item B, the letter from Minister Bond? Seeing none, we'll move down into... Yep.
I had a notice of motion in our minutes, but I had withdrawn it, and I will bring it back at a later date. I didn't have time to prepare it, but it was on documentation flow and information flow.
Okay, and Councillor McKay, did you have a notice of motion?
I have an item number 15, other business.
Okay, well, we'll come down to that. And so we're going to move down to... Councillor Kipp, you just provided the notice of motion now?
And now, and I'll bring it back at a later date.
Now we're going to 15. Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Worship. I'm disappointed that the delegation that came here to speak to us about Lost Lake Road have left. But I really think that we need to continue to get the message out about the official community plan that was adopted a couple of years ago, and the desire to increase density in our community. We're very quickly running out of land to build on, and a lot of these infill projects, yes, they will make changes to neighborhoods, but I don't believe they're going to be detrimental to those neighborhoods. If we compare ourselves with Saanich, for example, I believe in Saanich they have 15 people per hectare or acre or some such, I think that's the number. In Nanaimo, our comparable number is 9. So we want to increase density, and yes, they will change neighborhoods, but the sky is not falling.
Okay, thank you.
I've done it in a number of restaurants in the downtown area, gone and dropped off copies of the OCP, neighborhood plan copies, regional growth strategies, and if you get an extra copy, sometimes drop it at some of the coffee shops in the north end, put them down on the counter, and people like to pick it up. Call it a coffee shop copy, and I know the groups I've dropped them off to have been very appreciative. They don't always look on the internet.
Did they give you free coffee for that?
No free coffee.
I just want to check that point. Okay.
The buzz. Just at the buzz.
Please, no commercials, no commercials. I knew I shouldn't have gone there. Okay, we move into item 16, question period. Any questions from the audience? These, of course, would be agenda items only. Welcome,
My
sir.
name is Fred Taylor of 204 Emery Way. I'm glad the last speaker of council raised the question of density, because I keep wondering why, or ask council why we are not looking at the design of corridors and expecting people to build extra height buildings when some communities demand that extra height be a residential accommodation. In other words, it doesn't sit there empty at a great cost to heat, etc., etc. And I think of the TD Bank downtown, the corner of Esplanade and Nickel. I think of Country Grocer on Bowen just opened. There appears to be like a large barn parallel with the Bowen Road, and the top floor appears to be empty, just like sort of a catwalk. TD Bank on that corner as well. It's got much extra height. And some communities are wisely, in my opinion, demanding greater height to make it look like corridor. But that height becomes a residential accommodation, suites or whatever. Qualicum, different communities, small communities. So you don't, it's going backwards in environmental design, in my opinion, by creating this large space that has to be heated. Then you get ceiling fans and everything else, great expense, where it could be greater density right there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no other delegations, if someone would like to make the motion, we adjourn. Second, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.